Okay, so today we're going to talk about training terminology and training structure. So, training terminology is all the lingo that you hear in the gym environment, and the first few you probably already know. You've got your reps, your sets, and your rest. There's the other ones such as your weight or load that we'll look talking about a little bit later. This is a two-page document. It does have a lot more in it than just your rep set and rest. So RDL, commonly called RDL, is just a type of deadlift that has slightly bent knees and is more of a hip hinge movement. Pace and tempo is how slow or fast you do the movement. It does get very specific, but you learn more about that later on in this program. 1 RM is one repetition max. That means the heaviest weight that you can lift for just one rep. So pretend that you can lift a car weighs 500 kilos. You can only lift that car once. That's your 1 RM. It is a very strength-based movement. Got intervals over here, so a period of effort, so an interval of effort followed by a rest period. So your interval training can be incorporated in your program. Steady state cardio is more for fat loss and can be talked about when it comes to fat loss. It's just a low heart rate style of cardio that you do for a longer period of time. It keeps you in this heart rate that's fat burning for optimal fat loss. If that's something you're interested in, let me know and we can talk about it. AMRAP is as many reps as possible or as many rounds as possible. So in a set period of time, you do as many rounds as possible, or for a specific exercise, you do as many reps as possible. So if I was to use that, I would tell you which one we're doing there because they're totally different things. I'll use a little bit of abbreviation, so RDL being one of them. Kettlebell is abbreviated to KB, dumbbells abbreviated to DB, and overhead abbreviated to OH. So you'll see those throughout the program as well. Tabata is a specific type of interval training that is 20 seconds of work and 10 seconds of rest repeated over and over and over again. It is a high intensity interval training method. You've got every minute on the minute, which is allowing you to have some rest after you do your certain amount of reps. So every minute you start your reps, and then the rest of the minute, once you've done your reps, you rest until every minute of the minute you go again. Body mass index, most people know. Load is another way of saying weight, but resistance as well when you're working on strength training. HR is an abbreviation of heart rate, so it's usually your heart rate as beats per minute, or it can be heart rate percentage as a percentage of your max heart rate. So again, I can tell you what that is if we were to use it. RPE is rate of perceived exertion, or just how hard you think you're working in layman's term. So I will either use 1 to 10 or 10% to 100%, depending on what, like the range towards 10 being your maximum amount of effort. Superset, I do a lot of supersets in my programming. That just means two exercises back to back or more. It can be more than two exercises. Generally, it will be called a superset until it's called a circuit, which is generally 3 plus. I've written here 4 to 10 consecutive sets of each exercise. So circuit training is an old school method where you just jump from exercise to exercise to exercise. Very similar, those two. Eccentric, concentric, as well as your static, isometric, antagonist, and agonist and synergist are all very fancy movement related terms. You don't need to know these in depth, but it is good to have a read about them. Your static or isometric just means you're holding your muscles at tension. Compound and isolated are things that I think about when I'm programming exercises and programs. So compound is moving two joints at once, such as a bench press, whereas an isolated version of a chest would be a chest fly because it's only working at the shoulder versus the shoulder and the elbow. So those them Few extra acronyms here: rounds per minute, which is mainly used in bicycle based movement; range of movement, so you want to go from full range of movement or half range of movement. It's the range of the joint extension of the angles of the joints. Delayed onset muscle soreness, everybody gets it from time to time, especially beginners. You will feel sore after a workout. It's just the way of your muscles telling you that you've done an effective workout. It is a sign of tiny little muscle tears or lactic acid buildup in the body. Workout of the day is a more of a CrossFit term, but I've just put it in there for the sake of it. Then you've got extension and contraction. That's the lengthening or shortening of your muscle depending on the phase of the movement that you're working through. And these last four you will learn a lot more later on in my program as well. So drop sets, pyramid sets, 777s or 21s, and 1.5 reps are ways to progress your workout without going heavier. So if you are limited with weight, you can do different styles of training in order to get the most out of your workout. This second one here is your training structure. So contrary to popular belief, not everybody does 3 sets of 10 in the gym. A lot of people do because that's muscle building, and what we know as toning is to build your muscle and make it look big, which is different to strength. So the top one, strength, is more like powerlifting sort of experience where you're just trying to get the heaviest lift possible, such as those 1RMs that we talked about earlier. And hence we want to lift heavy. And that means lifting to your maximum intensity with no reps in reserve in your belt, basically every single time. Therefore, you need more rest in between. As you can see, it is an inverse relationship between the reps. So when you're up to 20 plus reps, you get no rest. So inversely, then you've got 1 to 6 reps, you get a lot of rest. So it is an inverse relationship. And then obviously you've got your lower intensity level when you're doing more reps because you want to be able to sustain that for a long period of time. Generally speaking, these sets go down as well as depending on what you're working on. Now, something that I do need to mention here is this is in an ideal world. If you enjoy doing circuits rather than strength training and you're going to do circuits more because you like them and you're not going to do strength training because you don't like them, go for the one that you enjoy because you're going to do it more consistently. If you're like me and like to mix things up and that's how you incorporate enjoyment into your workout, then absolutely do that too. Alternatively, if you have different goals, like you want to get stronger but you want to lose weight at the same time, then you can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and there are other ways to mix it up as well. So just do what's best for you, and again, have a chat with me if you feel like what you're doing isn't enjoyable enough. We want to make it enjoyable so you can get the most out of the program and get the most consistency and therefore the best results.